Okay, Itamexistico, good day. It is the afternoon of Saturday, October 20th, 2018. In the lunar cycle Itatstoi when cold arrives. And we're still having our kind of Indian summer. There's some Chinook winds blowing through today, so it's warm with a little extra breeze, which is nice. And I'm off on a kind of adventure / exploration. You know, I didn't have much on my agenda today, and I thought I should take advantage of that. There's some places in my area that I haven't really explored that I wanted to come in. One of the places that I wanted to come in forever has been to look at the river bottom here on this side of the river, on the Blood Reserve side. So I drove out, crossed over the St. Mary's, and being on the Blood side of the river here, this river bottom is very famous. I'm at the confluence. You know, if I crossed the river and just went downstream, you know, within walking distance of me right now, I'd be in Cottonwood Park, where Mandy lives and where other rattlesnakes are relocated and stuff. So I'm very close to my familiar territory, but I am on the Blood Indian Reserve side, and this flat right here is very famous because this is where the original Fort Whoop-Up used to be. And I've always wanted to come out and check it out and see, you know, look at the site. I made a kind of an excuse for it today and said I'm gonna go harvest bullberries because I wanted it to be a productive visit as well. But having never been out this way, I wasn't sure whether I could expect there to be many bullberries. So I got my bullberry collecting kit, which I'll show off when I get to that point. But I just do want to say that I was not wrong in suspecting that I'd find some good berry sources out here. There's a ton, and I'm gonna make a killing. I'm gonna easily fill my grocery sack here with berries before I leave. But yeah, the real reason for me coming down this way is to look at the original Fort Whoop-Up site, and I believe I'm coming up on it now. Flagpoles. Never know, down here things you find could be 100 years old. I laugh because it's you know, in terms of North American and Canadian history, this is kind of ancient, and yet this is like yesterday in Blackfoot history. Still, it's a very powerful place. I'm glad I finally came down here. It's not powerful in a good way. It's powerful in that it is a place that's strongly associated with in my opinion, with the current social context under which we live. It's a huge part of Canadian culture and recent Blackfoot and Canadian history. This is where the shared history begins, and unfortunately it begins really with whiskey, because even though there was, you know, a century of trade before that the Hudson's Bay started trading with the Blackfeet very early on, you know, 1700s and such. But all of that trade, the Blackfoot maintained complete cultural kind of sovereignty, you know. All of the technologies that were being taken in, the iron, the steel, the guns, the horses, you know, all of that was being taken in, but it was being adapted in, right? It was being as Frank Weaselhead, the late Frank Weaselhead, used to tell me, he says the difference between matsich, to take it, versus achkomato, to borrow it. And when you borrow something from another culture, you kind of let it change you in ways that you don't when you take it and make it your own. So the whiskey, you know, and it was a bad time because even though this says it was established in 1867, really wasn't. They came up and tried to establish things, but the Blackfoot burned the place down because they were maintaining that, you know, ownership of place and that cultural sovereignty, you know. But when this place really got established was 1870, 1871, after the Bakers Massacre, because this is the area where all the Blackfoot tribes were camped down here after that massacre. Like, a lot of the clans from down south across the line came up. Gana was here, Siksika was here, Pigunni was here. Everybody was here to try to figure out what to do, because they'd never seen anything like the massacre that the U.S. Army did on Heavy Runners Camp, you know, along the Marias River. They ended up sending an appeal to Washington, D.C., you know, for peace. And when the American whiskey traders Hamilton and Healy came up here to reestablish their little whiskey operation, they found all the Blackfoot congregated here. They knew just where to build, and they were allowed, I think, to stay here because the Blackfoot were appealing for peace. And so what you got was a kind of a surrender, but it was a surrender through alcohol. And this was the place right here. This was the hotbed of it. Without this, the Canadian RCMP might have never been formed, because this is what they were brought together, started and sent west to handle, was what was going on right here on this flat. Nisco in Blackfoot, many death place. So yeah, it's a powerful place. And I wanted to come to the real place, not the replica in downtown Lethbridge that celebrates the history a little bit differently than thinking about, you know, what it really is. And this was the start. This is how Lethbridge got its start, you know. I mean, this was the first store in Lethbridge, the first business, the first settlement, the first anything, and it just grew from there. So a pretty wild place to come spend an afternoon, but I'm gonna go back to picking berries. I gotta pick some berries, and I gotta grab Mahoney some red willow if I can find some. Help her with her headache. So let's get the harvest underway. So I've just walked into the tree line from where I was at the foundation of Fort Whoopup. Just come right into the edge zone of the riparian forest here, and I found immediately what I was looking for. In fact, I could see it as I was coming up on it. Visually, I could pick it out, because this is a plant that in Blackfoot we call Mikapixois, which means it's the red willow. In English, it's called red osier dogwood, but red seems to be the primary thing that sticks out about it to people, you know. It's got the red skin, almost like madrone or madrone tree, something like that. But red osier dogwood or red willow in Blackfoot. And it has a lot of qualities. One of the things it has is these nice white berries that, well, I shouldn't call them nice. To the modern tongue, they're really sour. But the old people like them. They like to mix them with Saskatoon, so you got a little bit of sweet and a little bit of sour. I think the cattle that run through here might have already picked these clean of the berries. But the other thing, and what I'm after today, is the bark, in particular the inner cambium. But I'm just going to take some good twigs that at home I can then take a grate or two and knock the bark off of. All the sap from, you know, the willows and the trees and stuff like that, it's already gone into the ground. The fluids are out of there, so it's not the best time to be picking bark. This kind of medicine should really be gathered much earlier in the season, but when you have a need and you don't have any at home, you just pick it whenever you can. So I'm just going to grab some of these twigs here, just break off a few, cut off a few to take with me for Mahoney. But yeah, this is her medicine. This is a painkiller. It has a, as far as willows go, you know, all willows have this, whatever it is, aspartame or whatever the chemical ingredient is in there, like from aspirin, that is a pain reliever, right? They all have that. But out of the 20-something willow species in my region, this one, the red osier dogwood, is the one that has the kind of the highest pain-killing quality in the cambium of the bark, the inner bark, basically. So you just make a tea from it. And yeah, I'm going to gather some of that and then go harvest some bullberries. Okay, back to the bullberries and gonna get the harvest on. Now, what does a bullberry harvest kit look like? Well, those of you who have been through a winter on my YouTube channel before know the ritual that's gonna go on here. Those of you who don't, I'll show you what my bag looks like. This is a solo harvest. Traditionally, a bullberry harvest requires about 3 people. You're going to have 2 people holding a hide or a tarp underneath to catch the berries, and 1 person who's going to tap the berry branches to get the berries to drop. So it's usually a 3-person operation. However, one of my students several years back from Red Crow College figured out a solo method, and it works like this. You need a bag or a bucket or, you know, some kind of container to put your berries ultimately in. And they're going to be messy, so you want something that's going to be able to handle that messiness, juice and berry guts and stuff. And then you're going to want an umbrella with a hook at the bottom. Hey, the hook is important because the hook you're going to have hanging on the branch, and you're going to open the umbrella up to catch the berries. And then of course you need your whacking stick. And you're gonna see, I'll show you the technique. You don't have to go all crazy whacking it. You just, if they're ripe, you just have to kind of gently, almost a little bit hard, but mostly gentle. You're not damaging the tree. Knock them and the berries should come off. So we've had a good shot of freezing nights about a week back. So I'm hoping these are ready, and I'm gonna try to demonstrate how to harvest bullberries here. So in a relatively short amount of time, I have amassed at least a third of my large grocery bag, maybe closer to a half, full of berries. It's heavy. It's going to be a pain to climb up the hill with. And there's still plenty of berries left down here. But I know other berry patches as well. I've kind of made my way through the easiest berries down here. And that's what I'll do at my other patches is, you know, before going to extremes and really bushwhacking, just get the ones on the outside that are simple to reach and leave the rest hopefully for the waxwings and such to take care of. So I will go home and show you, you know, how these berries are cleaned out, because there's an easy way to clean them where you don't have to go through and pick stems and leaves and that kind of thing. Okay, I'm back at home and I'm going to show you how to quickly and efficiently clean bullberries that you've harvested. Do not judge me about the dishes. What you need is a big pot about half full with water, and what you're going to do is you're going to pour your berries into the water, and I got to do it a piece at a time because I got a good load of berries here. So I'm going to pour maybe a third of these in. That might have even been about half. Might get lucky and be able to do half. So here's what it looks like in the pot. And what you want to do is get in there with your hands and stir things up. So the stuff that's on top, this ends up being all your discard stuff as you stir things up, right? So this is all garbage and berries that are dry or insect infected or infested, I should say. But yeah, this is all the discards. So I'm just going to quickly pull through some of this stuff and get the discard out of there. Okay, so having sifted through most of the discard stuff, I want to use a strainer and strain the water out again. Actually, I can stop there after the first stuff goes through, because most of this stuff is discard stuff that I don't want. That was the last of the stuff that was kind of on the top of, floating on the top of the water, that I couldn't just catch easily with my hand. Oh yeah. Ooh. Look at the results. Hey. Yeah, there's a few twigs and stuff in there. A couple of leaves here and there, but for the most part, this is cleaned out, ready to eat. Ready to eat and or toss in the freezer. Bullberries are not a fruit that can be preserved by drying, so you pretty much eat them fresh or make them into preserves of some kind or freeze them. So I'm going to do a little bit of probably all three.